Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Taking Care of Business. This week I'm joined by our Managing Director Marc Walters.
Morning.
And our Data Queen Lynnette.
Good morning.
This is one of my favourite topics for the podcast. We do it at the start of every month, which is to review the data for the previous month. The reason I like it so much is there's so much in the data and there's so many conversation starters, there's so many points to look at and there's so many conclusions that we can try and draw. I find it a really interesting episode to do and to share our thoughts with you. So if I can get underway and start by throwing the conversation to Lynnette, just to share some highline facts and figures from July.
Yes, so I will start with overall Dubai. So these are the data and the stats from the Dubai Land Department Open Data Platform. In July, there were 7,095 transactions, which is a 20% decline month on month. So it's the summer months. Yep. Most are traveling. We have this pent-up demand for traveling over the last few years due to COVID. So what we have been seeing here during the summer is we're seeing the summer travels for residents. We are seeing declines across the board. In regards to transactions, there was a 20% decline. However, year on year, we're still showing a significant increase. So year on year, it's a 62% increase when it comes to sales volume here in Dubai. The all-plant market secondary is a 60-40 split, 60% being in the secondary market. Again, we saw a month-on-month decline of 21%. However, we saw a 61% increase year on year. And that's just the overall high level from the Dubai market.
That's really interesting, and it's really good news for me that this year has been almost the return of off-plan and launches. Not the return of, but it's really been a busy year, and we've seen developer launches selling out within minutes almost, and a scramble to try and get hold of units. But still within that, we've seen secondary market maintain 60% share of the market.
I think what you found as well, Paul and Lynnette, you'll be able to jump in here. I think over the last or this year especially, I think business bay has been number one in terms of transactions, but a lot of them will be off plan. And I think last month it was a significant increase in the previous month. And I think it was number one. Number two was Burj Khalifa as well, but you'll see Business Bay was far and ahead away from any other area.
Yes, it's true. So we're seeing Business Bay, Burj Khalifa area, Dubai Marina is consistently being the top for sales transactions overall Dubai from Dubai Land Department data. We're also seeing more or less the same kind of trend here at Allsup for the top area for sales. We have Business Bay, we have Dubai Marina. And our trends are pretty much more or less following the same trend line as the overall Dubai market, except for a few exceptions, which I'm sure you'll talk about, Paul.
Yeah, which is good to know that we're on the right lines as a company. But as always, as an individual company within the market, there'll always be a couple of areas where we don't track, I guess. So this leads nicely into the Allsup data for July that I know you've been having a look at, Mark. So what have you seen for July?
Well, first of all, Paul, on a positive, we saw a record July. I say a record July, I mean a record July from the previous July months. And we saw a 19% increase in revenue from July 2021. What we did see, and I was looking at this data last night, and we've seen of our top 20 areas, we've seen actually a decline in sales price, not just in sales, but just in rentals as well, which is, I thought, was significant, because I don't think I've seen that for quite some time. I think last month there may have been one or two, but for there to be 7, it was quite significant for me.
So we did start to speculate on this last month. Yeah, and again, just to make it clear to everyone, when we're talking about the decline in sales or rental price, we're not talking about apples for apples. So we're not saying your property's declined in price. We're saying the average price in the market has dropped. And what that can be an indication of, so as Mark said, for the last 2 years, all we've heard is the market's great, prices going up, etc., etc. And it has been, it's not been a lie, that's been what's going on in the market. So for the first time of average sale prices to come down, maybe it suggests a change in clients' behaviour where they're opting for different options in the market. So again, just to make it clear, we're not saying an individual property's price has decreased, we're just saying overall in the market, the average transaction price in total has dropped.
I think that's what you found as well, Paul, not just over the last 12 months, what people are starting to do is, yes, they're starting to look for a specific property, but it's not the property that you tend to buy. We're looking at now where people are looking at one or two different areas and then spreading the wings because maybe it's a little too expensive and they're going further afield or whatever it may be. I also think a big part of playing, and Lynnette touched on it earlier, is people now can travel and have been able to travel. It was the first time, that people have been able to travel since COVID. And I, again, from a personal point of view as well, people now can work from home. So they're tending to spend more time, whether it be at home or whether it be further afield where they live, whether they go to the US. I know my wife personally now, she's working from the UK and she's been working there for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that will also have an impact, obviously, because people can't view as well, you know. And again, let's not forget, it's the summer months, and we've got to be, it is consistent, not just in July 2021 or 22 and June 2022 in the summer months. We find this in previous summer months as well, just because of people want to get out to Dubai. So I don't think it's a massive thing. I don't think it's something that we need to be concerned about, but I think we need to look at it a little bit closer. But
playing devil's advocate a little bit, do you think we can blame it solely on the summer? Because I mean, we're seeing a lot going on in the world at the moment. We're seeing interest rate rises, so people's affordability is going to change. Do we think that's having any impact whatsoever in the market at the moment? Or?
I think it will be. I think we can't be naive to think that when people read the news, especially in Dubai, it's very it's like a domino effect. A lot of people will follow suit. It's not something that I'm too concerned about. Like I said, we've done a report the other day. I've done a report with my head of mortgages, and with the interest rate hikes, Paul, we worked out what it would cost per million dirham loan, and we worked out from if you had a 3% interest rate on your mortgage and it risen to 5% interest rate, we're seeing a 500 dirham, circa 500 dirham increase for every million dirhams. So let's say, for argument's sake, if you had a 2 million dirham loan and you had a 3% interest rate, it went to 5%, it works out between 15 and 2,000 dirhams. I think that works
extra.
out. Yeah, extra.
Which is significant.
It is significant, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like I say, people are gonna look at this. People are gonna look at it and they're gonna read into it. But Dubai is still, for me, it's a place where, again, since COVID, we've seen significant changes. Dubai was never really closed. We've seen significant changes for the better. I seen a report this morning. We saw Dubai was ranked 4th globally for prime real estate capital growth in H1. That was behind Los Angeles, that was behind Miami and San Francisco. If you compare prices in Dubai to them 3 other major cities, it's not even a comparable, because the price per square foot is just so significant, So I still think we're in a very good place.
Good. Lynnette, I want to change the subject slightly, because I know you mentioned just before we came on the PMI results that were released. Do you want to just explain to everyone what the PMI is and what we've seen?
Yeah, so the Dubai PMI just came out this morning, and it's it's a 3-year high, so from pre-COVID. And basically the PMI is the Purchasers Managers Index, and it looks at the economy from the non-oil sector. So it looks at businesses in the non-oil sector, it looks at tourism, construction, and it's just overall Dubai is doing very well. The tourism number, the stats came out a day ago, and we had 183% increase year on year.
Wow. You just have to look at flights to and from wherever you're going. The prices of flights at the moment are so expensive, and that means that people are coming here. I know obviously the airlines have got to recoup the money from COVID, but even hotel rooms, the occupancy in hotel rooms are so high at the moment.
74% as of the report, which is one of the highest in the world. So Dubai overall is doing very well. Yes, we've had our increase in interest rates due to what is happening in the US, but if we just want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the US, the employment report came out on Monday, yesterday, and it's an all-time low, 3.5%. There was over 500,000 jobs added in the US economy in July. This is good news, because if you look at what the recipe for a recession, everyone's talking about recession. So number one is GDP declines consecutively quarter on quarter for 2 quarters. However, in the US, also the jobless rate should be declining, and it's not. It's increasing. So unemployment rate is very, very low. So when people are talking about recession, especially in the U.S., everyone's saying it's just not happening, especially the economists and the Fed and everyone in the U.S. So Dubai overall has done very well over the summer. Now, when it comes to the real estate market and sales transactions, I do believe that the sales prices have started to stabilize, and I believe it will continue to stabilize in the sales market until the end of the year. Rental market obviously is a whole nother story, because the prices have increased month on month, just because of the amount of volume, the amount of people who have come into Dubai, the tourism, people who are looking to settle here. The new visa scheme is coming out next month. We have the World Cup coming out at the end of the year.
What I will say internally though, Lynnette, in terms of rental prices, it's been very, very consistent across the board since January. I think only March where we saw a spike in price. It's been, I think, around a 5% different variable either way. So it hasn't been, I wouldn't say affected, but we haven't seen a hike or a decrease in prices since January. So it's been quite consistent across the board.
Yeah, we had 1 month when it comes to volume for overall Dubai rental volume. It was, we're talking about July, June. It was May where we had a pretty significant increase. I believe it was like 46% increase in the volume of rental contracts. However, in June and July, there was a decline about 20% each month in rental contracts. So we did see that. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen towards the end of the year with all these other factors coming into play. Mortgage rates have increased. A lot of people who have thought to buy, and I'm sure we're seeing this with clients, are now maybe reconsidering and saying, okay, maybe I'll rent for another year and see where the market goes.
Exactly.
I'm sure the agents are having a lot of those conversations right now. But when it comes to the sales market, I definitely do see the prices stabilize towards the end, from now to the end of the year, just because of what we've been seeing in the market with price increases.
It's definitely not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
The way it's the way it went from, again, I keep getting back to COVID, but the way it's gone from COVID to now, I think something like this, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I really don't.
No, because it's a basic thing, isn't it? If prices rise and rise and rise, and they never stop, it's going to come crashing down at some point. So to have a stabilisation is healthy for a mature market, which is what we're in, which is, going back to the point I made before about, it's amazing to see secondary market retain 60% of the market share, because that shows a healthy, mature real estate market.
What, Paul, as well, I always allude to this all the time. Dubai is so attractive in terms of pricing. Again, I mentioned before the 3 major cities that were mentioned in the recent article about the capital growth: Miami, LA, and San Francisco. And if you look or you do a report on pricing per square foot, Dubai is so cheap compared to these major cities, still to this day, and it is so attractive. And again, like we said, like Lynnette alluded to before, what is happening in this city at the minute, I don't see it anywhere else in the world. Again, obviously, I'm quite biased because we live here, but the articles that you do read globally, and it's doom and gloom. And the amount of articles that I see in the media every single day from Dubai, it's such positive news. It's so positive, and it's refreshing almost, because like you say, especially where back in the UK, it's just all doom and gloom, and you're just like, wow, when is this going to get better? Well, here, it's such positive news every single day. You know, it's exciting. It's like very exciting.
Yeah,
agree.
Moving on to, I know this is one I always get comments on and people like to hear about, is the buyers and tenants finance and check summary. I don't know if you got that information to hand.
Yeah, I do. So for Allsup and Allsup, in July, 31% of our clients were cash buyers, whereas 64% were financed, and then the rest opted for developer deals. When it comes to the number of checks, this has been consistent over the last few months. This sequence is that the top check is 1 check, where we had over 32% of our transactions with 1 check. The second was for 2 checks. We had over 30% of our transactions with 2 checks. Next is 4 checks. We had over 18% of our transactions for 4 checks, and then 3 checks with over 9% of our transactions.
I'm really interested to see this over the next probably 6 to 12 months with the new rental agreement that came out for direct debit payments or standing order payments. Can't remember the exact terminology, but it'd be interesting to see how this changes over the next 12 months.
Agree completely. And our top nationalities for tenants is British, Indian, and Lebanese made it up there.
Good.
this month.
And for buyers, I think it was British, Indian, and French.
And interesting with buyers, and I don't know this.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's been the top 3 for the last 3 or 4 months on the spin, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think Lynnette's got an interesting fact about the French people, if we can word it like that.
I don't know if
we
we correlate, and this is the beauty of data. You can look into the data and you can find multiple stories.
Yeah.
But I found it very interesting that the amount of French tourists that have come into Dubai have increased by 56% quarter on quarter. This is according to the Dubai tourism stats. And now we're seeing French being in the top 3 of our buyers.
I think it will be, and this is why 183% increase in tourism in general, I think is fantastic. We've just had a lady started with us last Monday who came over on holiday.
Yeah.
And is now likes Dubai and started.
That's happened over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
The amount of sales that we've seen where people have come over, whether they use our short-term lettings team or external short-term lettings, they've stayed here for 3 or 4 months, seeing how positive and vibrant the place is, and they've bought. We've never seen that before.
Yeah. So I think there will be a correlation between tourism and transactions in the market and what we're seeing.
And also short-term rental, we have a short-term rental team. I have stats from, it's a company called AirDNA. They're a data platform for short-term rentals, and they take aggregated information from Airbnb, Booking.com, and the various other websites. And interesting enough, this summer, Dubai Marina, downtown Dubai, it's over 69% occupancy.
In the summer?
During the summer months. So this is as of last week when I was looking at the stats. And Dubai Hills at 71%, which, you know, that's a new stat for us, right? When it comes to a short-term market. Obviously with the World Cup coming in towards the end of the year, that number's going to increase, of course, because of the winter months as well. New visa scheme coming in. I think we're going to see a very dynamic short-term market, and I think we're going to start to see areas which traditionally were not popular in the short-term market, for example, like Discovery Gardens, where it's very convenient, it's affordable, next to the metro, shopping Sheikh Zayed, for these people coming in on these 2-month, 3-month visas. So I think the short-term market is going to be very dynamic over the next few months to the end of the year.
Just quickly, Lynnette, just in case people watching aren't aware or aren't too sure, we've mentioned it a couple of times. Could you just give a very high level of the visa scheme that's coming in September?
Yes, so there's many new additions to the visa scheme, but for example, you can apply to come here to look for a job and you get a 2-month visa. You can apply to visit a friend or a relative and get a 2-month visa. So it's very relaxed, very lenient compared to before. Of course, you have the golden visa scheme, which is also part of that, which is coming out as well, real estate playing a very big part in that role. But basically, you can come here on a 2-month visa, visiting friends, relatives, looking for a job. I mean, it's going to be extremely easy.
Well, I know it's very anecdotal, but the Facebook groups I'm in have constantly people saying, I want to move to Dubai, can anyone point me in the right direction for jobs, etc. So for that person now to be able to get a 2-month visa to come to get feet on the ground and meet people, I expect it'll have a big impact in the market. Okay, so to wrap things up, because I think we're running down on time now, I'll get opinions from both of you about what you think we're going to have to see over the next couple of months. So if I start with you, Lynnette.
So as I said earlier, I think we're going to see the sales market stabilize when it comes to pricing. I believe the rental market will continue to increase month on month when we look at the overall Dubai figures for both for volume and value. I believe that the prime popular areas are still going to remain strong. These are the Dubai marinas, the springs, the lakes, meadows, all those areas, downtown Dubai. I believe that we are going to see a lot more activity in the rental market as well as the short-term market because of what's happening overall here in Dubai. Interest rates are probably going to increase again. Well, they will increase again by the end of the year, probably another 50 base points, once or maybe even twice, depending on how the conversations go in the US. And yeah, that's pretty much what I see.
Just to chip in on that, and I think Daniel mentioned it in the last podcast we did, the interest rates are rising, and I said before in this podcast it's probably having an effect, but a key point to make is they're only rising to a level they were, 3, 4, 5 years ago?
5 years ago, yeah.
5 years ago. So we've been in a kind of fortunate period where things have happened in the world and interest rates have dropped. but it's not like they're going to all-time record highs and groundbreaking new scenario. Is they just returning to what they were 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes, I agree, Paul, 100%. We are going back to where we were more or less 5 years ago when it comes to interest rates. I just think that, it happened so quickly for us this year.
Yeah, that's true.
I looked at my interest rate in the beginning of the year versus, today, and it's just like, whoa, where did this number come from? Almost, in one of my mortgages, almost 5%. And it's just, it's a bit of a shock, and it's an adjustment, like you said earlier, Mark. My mortgage went up by like $3,500 in one of them. And it's an adjustment, right? I think that now when people are going to be looking for properties who have been in the buying market.
Can I ask a question, Lynnette? The one that went up 3,000 dirhams, have you seen an increase in capital appreciation on that property?
Of course, yes.
So you've got to look at that as
well.
Of
course.
It's so important that obviously interest rates have gone up, but also the prices have gone up as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of offsetting what you're paying, if that makes any sense. We've got some guys who paid X amount 2 years ago and have doubled in price. So we also have to look at that. Yes, it's not ideal when you see your EMIs go up every single month, but you've also got to look at what your capital appreciation as well and what you've made in the last 2 or 3 years, however long you've had your property.
Agree, 100%. And one thing that I want to add to that, Mark, is, and we're kind of seeing this a little bit in the data right now when it comes to the outskirts, the areas further out, like the Akoya Oxygen areas. We're not seeing price increase month on month. It's pretty flat in these areas. And it just goes into what you were saying. Yes, I'm seeing capital appreciation in this property, but it is in a prime area. It's a very high demand property. And I think what people are, over the last few months, have done is they really assess, okay, do I really want to go to this part of town or this type of segment, get into this type of segment, or do I want to stay more inner, like within the city, maybe a smaller space, maybe no backyard space? And I think we're seeing that also in the data and in the numbers as well.
I think what you see as well is, even if people are moving further afield, I have the arguments all the time. I think where I live, there was a stigma about where it was, and it was too far away. It's 15 minutes from everywhere. I think it's the furthest away is 20 minutes from downtown. That's, if you go wherever you go in the world, and you commute, it's an hour journey anyway.
We are spoiled in this city.
We are very spoiled.
So even if you're making a decision to go further afield, like your Akoya Oxygens, like your Dubai South and places like that, it's still not far away because of the infrastructure that we have in place now. Everything's 15-20 minutes, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Good. So to give you the final comment, Mark, what do you think for the next couple of months?
Well, Paul, I'm already seeing the last 7 to 10 days a significant increase in lead generation. On the roads, you're seeing more cars. I went to the mall 2 days ago, and there's more people on the roads. And I think in 2 or 3 weeks' time, the children are back in school. So all of these things, you're going to see a change, I believe, in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Over the course of the next 4 to 5 months, I'm so excited about what's going to happen. Again, Lynnette spoke about the sporting events. You've got the Formula 1, you have the golf, you have obviously the World Cup, and you're going to see a significant impact in Dubai real estate. That's my opinion. We're on a recruitment drive at the moment, and the people that I'm speaking to, I had a chat with 2 of my friends yesterday, and they were looking at moving over just because of how buoyant the place is. Some of the figures that Lynnette mentioned before with tourism and everything else, obviously I've got to try and put a spin on everything, but I'm very, very confident that this market will go from strength to strength and continue the way it has over the last 18 months. I can't see it going any other way, Paul. I'm really, really excited for what the next 6 months is going to bring.
Good. Well, that's a good place to leave it. Thank you, as always, for watching and tuning in. Please share, like, subscribe, leave your comments. Let us know if you agree, but also let us know if you disagree, if you've got any questions with anything we've talked about, or if you want any more information. Thank you once again, Mark, and thank you once again, Lynnette, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.